A busy night in the land of severe weather in the Great Plains, where we've got severe thunderstorms and a few tornadoes earlier. There's some flash flooding going on in a small portion of the Missouri River Valley and the Mississippi River Valley. We'll take a look at that, but it's severe weather issues for the middle of the country for tonight, right through Sunday. And meanwhile, here in the east, except for a minor interruption in the northeast and northern mid-Atlantic states with a couple of scattered showers Saturday night with a warm front, we're on our way to warmer temperatures, and all through it, the air should be mostly dry. And that's good news, which we have sometimes here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow, the revolutionary Tempest weather system that you can control from your mobile device and get one and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned in the description to this podcast, and if you purchase this or anything else, because they have all sorts of weather gadgets and gizmos in smart weather fashion, use the coupon code SPRING 2024,
Yay!
right? And
Yay!
yay. And if you do, you will get,
10 big percent off.
yes, you
Joe?
will.
Yes.
So last night, we were talking about the fact that they had all these freeze warnings up. And we mentioned, I brought up the fact that there were these patchy clouds around. And sure enough, woke up this morning on the satellite, and there was a narrow strip of clouds right over northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, over you. And I was looking at the temperatures, and uh, not too many spots got below 32 because of the cloud cover. However, tonight's a different story because it's clear, there's hardly any wind, and we haven't the core of this chilly air mass is just overhead now and starting to slide to the east. So I think tonight sets up that we could see some frosts and freezes.
35 degrees here this morning, and we had a day like a night coming up like this just a couple of nights ago, and the extremes are the deep valley sections to my north and west, and the urban and coastal localities to my south and east. In situations like this, Joe, I always seem to end up somewhere in the middle. So tonight, I don't think I'm going to get below freezing tonight either, but I think we're going to get down. Last night was 35. I'll say 34 tonight for the low, which would make it this week 4 nights out of 5 where I've had temperatures down in the 30s. It's been a pretty chilly week this week so far.
I was a little lower than I thought I'd be this morning. I wasn't down to freezing, which I'm happy about because I had my plants out. The low was 39, so that worked for me. And I think we got to 73 today, and it was pretty much cloudless all day long. Just a beautiful spring day here in the mountains of North Georgia, and uh, we're kind of in the same boat over the next few days because we're going to warm up here, and these two storms are so far to the west that they really don't have any impact from the standpoint of precipitation, other than the warm front that's going to flip Saturday night, and maybe somebody gets a shower with that before it goes by. And then the only question in my mind is, does the wind direction behave on Monday? Sunday, it'll be southwest for everybody, and it should warm up into the 70s, I would think. And I think Monday, if the wind behaves, you're going to see 80s. I wouldn't be shocked at all, by the way, in areas and parts of central and South Jersey that somebody gets close to the big 9-0 if it plays right.
It's certainly a possibility. I've seen, and we've had days in April every once in a great while that have hit the big 9-0. I'm not sure if we'll go that high on Monday, but I certainly am banking on temperatures locally getting into the lower 80s here, maybe cooler 70s down by the Sound Shore. We'll see, but yeah, big warm up coming after this spate of unseasonably chilly, if not downright cold weather that we've had here, as I noted, for much of this week.
Welcome tonight to everybody on the chat board to the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is a 5 day a week, 5 day a week occurrence, Sunday through Thursdays at 7:35 p.m. and the occasional Friday and Saturday if we have storm issues going on. Of course, we'll let you know in plenty of time that we are going to add an extra show or two, and sometimes when we do that, we take away a show or two from the regular schedule. But we do our best to keep you informed. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And if you like the show, by all means, hit the like button because Joe and I, you know, we like to be liked. Who doesn't?
Yeah,
Right?
we haven't hit that bell, but we've hit it for things like getting a Briller Jeopardy question right on the nose. But in terms of actually hitting it because we've hit 100 likes, it's been a while since we've hit 100 likes.
Yeah. Well, it's a time of year. Weather's not priority for the most
Yeah,
part during the month of April. And for some reason that it starts to pick, it does start to pick up again during the month of May. I don't know why the difference in April. I guess all the winter people go away, and this April is just sort of, getting it out of your system. And then, you start to get into May, and you got the summer people that start to pay more attention, and then you get closer to hurricane season. So this is the natural ebb in our studio audience, and hopefully it'll go back up like it usually does, or it has done that in the past few years. All right, let's take a look at what's going on, and we'll.
incidentally, did you hear what the temperatures were up in? And I was just up there a couple of weeks ago for the eclipse, up in the Adirondack region, the Northeast Kingdom. This morning, 12 degrees,
Oh,
Saranac Lake, 12 degrees, Joe. I mean, I had a bunch of eclipse chasing buddies who went to Saranac Lake for the eclipse. It was in the 50s and 60s there back at the beginning of April. 12 degrees this morning, a frigid 12 degrees.
I couldn't. I could tell you because we've had a couple of cold mornings here, and we had two mornings here where it got down to 32. You just get to a certain point where you don't. You're like enough. Go away. You don't want to see these low numbers anymore. But I can't fathom 12 on the 25th of April.
Yeah, it's
Well, they were under the big high. They must have radiated like mad.
I'm sure they did. A lot of places, well, they were 12. A lot of places surrounding Saranac Lake were much warmer, like
Right.
18 or 19.
Oh, well, okay. Everybody was still had the heat on and burning firewood.
I mean, they couldn't do that even during the dead of winter.
I
There are
know.
many
You're right. It exactly.
crazy. Just crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got these freeze warnings up tonight. They actually have New York City in a freeze warning. Find it difficult to believe that the urban area of New York City is going to get down below 40 degrees overnight. I could be wrong, but uh, I don't know. I could see it for Long Island. No, they didn't put it up for New York City. I'm sorry. The map is deceptive. But they've got frost advisories in Suffolk County, the western half, and freeze warnings for the eastern half, and that kind of makes sense. And they got frost advisories for coastal Connecticut south of 95. North of there, it's freeze warning. Freeze warning in northern Westchester, Joe, but not southern Westchester. And freeze warnings for most of the counties of New Jersey, except the counties that surround New York City. They don't have anything going on there. So that's, and then if we go down a little bit further for our friends in Southeast PA, frost advisories for Philadelphia, but everybody else in the surrounding counties in New Jersey and in Eastern Pennsylvania under freeze warnings. So this is all people plant things this time of year, and the usual rule was always wait till after Mother's Day
Mother's Day,
bef-
yeah.
before you put down any annuals. Uh, so if you if you put them down already, you've got a risk tonight. But the good news is that after tonight, you don't have much risk at all going forward.
No, it's well, tomorrow night will be not as cold. Still, I would not be surprised if I, dipped into the 30s tomorrow night or Saturday morning as well. Certainly not below freezing, but that would make it like, 5 out of 6 days in the 30s, which is crazy. But you're right. After tomorrow night, once we get into the weekend and especially early next week, uh, big warm up on the way.
Well, all the action is up in the plains, and we've got a working tornado watch now from northwest Texas to the Oklahoma Panhandle, eastern Colorado, western Kansas, and a few counties in southern Nebraska. There's a little strip of flash flood warnings in east east Kansas or southeast Kansas into southwest Missouri. It looks like one, two, three, four counties there, and some flood advisories up now. Maggie P on the chat board pointing out the Colorado Spring is when you have tornado warnings 1 minute and then you get snow the next. And west of Denver, we've got a few counties and some of the higher elevations, uh, well, higher than 5,000 feet anyway, where we've got winter weather advisories up, and for a few counties in northeastern Utah as well. And there are winter storm warnings up for the southern southwest counties of Montana, a handful of counties there where they've got winter storm warnings. In the meantime, as we check out the satellite loop, I don't know what there was this patchy area of clouds, and this was the area that was this morning up in northeastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, and to you. They sunk southward today, and they're thinning out, but they were this small patch northeast Virginia to Maryland, and Delaware. That's been a gain today. Otherwise, it was really nice up and down the Eastern Seaboard. We're seeing some blow off of the high clouds coming into North Georgia and western South and North Carolina from thunderstorms that are producing a lot of lightning strikes this evening. And you see all those red and green flashes in parts of Missouri and into eastern Kansas. And these are producing mostly heavy rain. And then if you look further west, you can see the blow up of more lightning strikes in a line in eastern Colorado, western Kansas, and then on up into Nebraska. And then there's also some thunderstorms, another line into South Dakota and parts of southern Wyoming. So this is where SPC is doing its thing tonight. So let's just go to and show you that. And there's a working tornado watch that is up in that red box, if you want to call it a box. Um, and we've got two areas of enhanced risk, one that's inside that box, the other one is down in Texas, extending into Oklahoma, and the marginal risk right to the Kansas-Missouri border. Although when you look at what's going on with the lightning strikes, you wonder whether it should have been perhaps a little bit further to the east, but that's their job, not mine. And I'm looking at Tornado HQ, Joe, and I'm going to bring up the radar, and you can see there's a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings up in West Kansas on up into southwest Nebraska, and also a bunch of severe thunderstorm warnings in northeastern Colorado, and a couple of them in South Dakota. We've got no tornado warnings at the moment. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have 11 working severe thunderstorm warnings up in all those areas that I've mentioned. And it's only going to get worse over the next couple of days because you've got two storm systems here that are producing this. This is the first one. We'll show you on the maps in a moment. And then there's a second one that follows about a day behind it. So it basically is going to keep this part of the country in severe weather and heavy rain right through the weekend.
Sometimes in the month of April, and we have often here in our neck of the woods have lamented the fact that when things slow down to a crawl or sometimes even stop for a while, when we get stuck underneath these blocks, we get stuck with day after day after day of cloudy, dreary, wet, rainy, or as Joe likes to call it, doom and gloom.
No, no, it's gloom and doom, not doom and gloom.
Gloom and doom. Gloom comes before doom. I didn't even know.
Gloom before doom.
Okay, well, anyway, this time around, we are the ones who are enjoying a spate of dry weather for the most part. For the most part, now, it's not to say that we won't be seeing any precipitation. Maybe late Saturday night, early Sunday, we'll get into a few showers, but no big deal. Meanwhile, the folks who get stuck with all of this are the folks who live in places like Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, portions of Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. They're going to have day in and day out of rain and showers and thunder and just terrible weather. They've had that. They will continue to have that probably right on through into the upcoming weekend. Not so good.
No, not so good good at all. Uh I'm just gonna check something really quick here. Um okay. Okay. Just wanted to a few of you have mentioned, YouTube's throwing ads up. They just added a button where I can delay the ads. Okay. So I am delaying them. So that should at least make things a little easier. I'm not a big fan. If they're going to throw an ad up, at least do it like every half hour or something. Don't run like a bunch of ads in a row. But that's how Google does things. And by the way, that second storm system's and the energy from that is moving into the Pacific Northwest because you got a lot of rain across Washington State, and that is going to be the second round of energy that's going to bring another low down into the plain states in the next couple of days. This one's going to be a little bit further east than the first one. But in the meantime, radars up and down the East Coast are silent. Let's go back to SPC and show the risk over the next couple of days. So this is tonight's with the slight to enhanced risk from Texas north to Nebraska, and then west into northeastern Colorado, and then back up north in western Nebraska, and on up into southwestern South Dakota. That's playing along according to plan. And the tornado risk is they reduced the area of 10% to western Kansas, and it's hatched. So there's an EF2 tornado risk. There were some tornado warnings earlier, but again, nothing at the moment, which is 7:51 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, folks, if you're watching this on a replay, obviously it's dated. So you want to go to weather.gov to make sure you get all the latest weather information regarding severe weather in your particular area, should there be any. Now, this is the map for tomorrow from SPC. They've got enhanced risk, eastern Nebraska, southwest Iowa, northeast Kansas, northwest Missouri, slight risk that goes all the way down into northeast Texas. And that comes again in the enhanced risk. They've got a 10% tornado risk and a risk that they could be EF2 to EF5 strength within 25 miles of any point in that zone. Um, Otherwise, it's 2 to 5% everywhere else. And as we go to day three, and this is Saturday into Sunday, we have a hefty area of enhanced from a small portion of north central Texas, cutting across much of Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, western Missouri. The slight risk goes all the way down to the Mexico border, all the way up north and northeast across Iowa, northern Illinois, Wisconsin, and into Michigan. And if that's not enough, let's go to the day four. Now is day four, and there you see on day four, pretty much the same area, just a little bit smaller, but still another round of 15%, which would be an equivalent of at least a slight risk of severe weather from northeast Texas on up into southwestern Wisconsin. It's unusual to see two back-to-back lows like this to produce 4 days of severe thunderstorms over virtually the same area of geography.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it? And you look at some of the information coming out of the Storm Prediction Center, and you can see it takes them right into the upcoming weekend. It doesn't want to seem to go anywhere, and it's tough, I think, to wake up each day and realize that you're still under a threat or a risk of severe weather if you happen to live somewhere anywhere from North Texas up to Iowa. That is truly, at least for the coming days ahead, truly tornado alley.
Right, and all these storms over the same area, severe or not, producing heavy rains, and they've already had some. So this is on top of those areas that have gotten heavy rain. They're going to get on top of what's already fallen. Those orange patches that you see in Oklahoma, in southwest Kansas, into Missouri, and also into southwestern Arkansas, that's 5 to 7 inches of rain. And in some cases, it's on top of what's already fallen. And it's a fairly large area. The purple, the lightest shade of purple, is an inch and a half. That goes all the way up north of Lake Superior. So virtually the entire Mississippi River Valley, the Missouri River Valley, and back into parts of the southern and central plains, all are going to see uh, some pretty hefty rain here and the potential for flash flooding with all of this. And of course, while that's going on, Joe, in the east, except for that warm front, the precip is relative. This goes, by the way, through next Thursday. So this includes the precip that you see in the northeast includes uh, rainfall from maybe a front on Tuesday, maybe some showers and thunderstorms with that. But uh, otherwise, we're looking at you know maybe a couple of hundredths Saturday night with that warm front. It just doesn't look anything impressive. It's more of a wind shift line than anything else. And
Right.
most of the east is dry. The Pacific Northwest is wet, and of course you've got this big mess in the middle. But as long as these storms are tracking the way they are, we're going to see below for a change. We have broken the spell of nonstop above normal rainfall here, and just see below normal rainfall. We haven't said that in a long time.
No, it has been a long, long road that we have had to hoe in terms of wet weather. Yeah, that doesn't look like really anything major. I agree with you, Joe, in terms of any measurable precipitation. Well, how much could we possibly put down come late Saturday night into early Sunday? Maybe if you really want to push it, perhaps 2/10 of an inch, maybe. But in a lot of cases,
Yeah, that's really pushing it.
yes, I know.
Really pushing it.
Yep.
By the way, we do have some flash flood issues, and of course, obviously, they have a slight risk in Kansas, Missouri, northeastern Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas, down up into Nebraska. So there's a slight risk for flash flooding or excessive rainfall. And then on day two, so this is tomorrow into Saturday morning, the slight risk southwest Missouri down to northeast Texas, marginal risk going all the way up into Minnesota and west into South Dakota and northern Nebraska. Day three, which is Saturday into Sunday morning, they have a moderate risk of flash flooding across eastern Oklahoma and a small portion of southeast Kansas and a very small portion of north central Texas in a moderate risk, and then the larger area of slight risk. So, obviously, when we're talking thunderstorms here, we're talking potentially big rainfall amounts, and it's all cumulative. So, by the time we get to the round of severe weather for Saturday and then another round for Sunday, uh, the flash flooding threshold in this area is going to be pretty low.
And let me, the thing is that it's interesting to me is that usually the greatest threat of thunderstorm activity comes in the time frame from mid-afternoon until late evening. Due to what we call diurnal convection, the atmosphere heats up thanks to the late afternoon sun, and then once the sun goes down, the air cools and everything drops off in the late night hours. But in the case of what we're talking about in the nation's midsection, just take a look here at the Storm Prediction Center. They give an outlook, a probability outlook. They're giving probabilities in up to 70%. Actually, it goes up the probability in the overnight hours from well, for their time it would be 11 p.m. from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. In the second half of the overnight, the threat of thunderstorm activity increases, and there's nothing more scary, Joe, if you're in bed 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and you suddenly start hearing the thunder start rumbling, not just rumbling, I mean banging away as if somebody was blowing up explosives outside of your house, and also with that comes the threat of either straight line damaging winds or tornadoes. Nothing more. I think there can be nothing more frightening than suddenly having a tornado threat coming your way at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. That's it's one thing to have it happen at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but 2, 3 a.m. when it's dark and you can't even see much of anything out there. And all you can hear is the fireworks, so to speak, going on. That's going to be rough. That's what the people in eastern Nebraska, southwestern Iowa, the western side of Missouri, eastern Kansas, and right on down the middle of Oklahoma. That's what they're going to be facing overnight tonight. It's going to be a pretty rough night.
Yeah, they see that much more often than areas in the Northeast. Those nighttime thunderstorms. It's not I wouldn't call it rare. It's uncommon to see nighttime thunderstorms in the Northeast. Usually that happens when it happens during later July, August into September in that time frame. It's kind
And
of
even
unusual unless there's a warm front coming through or a strong cold front.
yeah,
You're not going to see it that often in the spring months.
right. But when it does happen, it is scary.
Oh yeah, no question. I've been shaken out of my bed for a few of those. Snow. We do have the snow maps working again from WPC. This is the 72-hour probability of at least four. And you can see the probabilities are high west of Denver, up and down the state. So pretty much the middle part of the state. And also in western Wyoming and in areas in southwestern Montana. So that justifies those winter storm warnings that we've seen and the winter weather advisories. And also not high probability, 30-40% chance in the Cascades and in the Sierra Nevada mountains in the next 72 hours. So there's that. All right, let's check out what the models are doing. And of course, the big cold high, it's a strong high there. That's a 1030. What is that? A 34? Or I can't read that. A 36? I'm trying to read this. Yeah, it's a 1036 high in Western New York this evening. And it's kind of settling, you know, the H, all of a sudden, they got one H up in Labrador, up in northeastern Quebec, is probably another high sitting over New York State. So, um, you've got at least the radiation set up for the overnight into tomorrow morning. There's your low, the 992 low in western Kansas for 2 a.m. Friday, which heads up into Nebraska. Meanwhile, the high in the east shifts a little further east over Vermont and then settles off the New Jersey coast tomorrow afternoon. The low is an 87 low in central Nebraska, and you can see the precip area that's being generated in the middle Mississippi Valley down into Texas. That low moves northeast. You've got mountain snows and valley rains with the next round of energy coming into the west. The first low runs up into Minnesota. The second low now pops up on Saturday in southeastern Colorado with some snow on the west side of that. And then that low is going to generate more severe weather and more thunderstorms. And look at this. This is for Saturday night, Joe. Look at the precip here on the GFS. I want to see what the radar looks like on this. Hold on a second. Let me switch over to the radar. Look at that. That's pretty. That's the GFS. This is what the GFS says the radar is going to look like Saturday night from Iowa down through western Missouri, eastern Kansas, and
Oh,
cutting across Oklahoma and into Texas. And meanwhile, you can see the warm front with some showers here. I don't know how much of this is actually reaching the ground, but some of it probably will. But it's sort of this narrow stick of showers. That's the warm front going by. The high goes to the south off Virginia, off the North Carolina coast. The next low is running up on a similar path. So the east is in a southwest flow. Uh, I don't know why there's some dots on the radar Sunday evening over southern New Jersey. That could be GFS noise, but the warm up's going to happen. Uh, my only question is, does the wind behave? Monday morning is a southwest wind, and then Monday afternoon you're kind of in no man's land as far as the wind is concerned. So I'm wondering whether there might be some areas that go to an east wind, or Long Island, maybe southeastern New England, which would hold temperatures down. But I got to think the inland spots should warm up quite a bit. And then this front approaches on Tuesday with some showers and possible thunderstorms maybe later in the day into Tuesday night. There's no real cold air behind it. So there's another front that comes on Wednesday with some showers and maybe a thunderstorm, and then that goes out. And then we got another low that's going to be forming in Texas and heading up to heading up toward the eastern Great Lakes this time around. So late next week, the GFS is right. It's got a low going to our west with an arm of rain and showers. So we'll see how that plays. But on the whole, these are not systems that look to produce a whole lot of rain, but I'm kind of concerned about the middle part of the country with this thing.
Oh, I would be. My goodness. I mean, they're going to get hammered.
Oh yeah, no question about it. Uh, let's look quickly at the upper air looks like in the longer term. I didn't take a look today. Uh, all right, so here's our ridge in the east, troughing in the west. First upper low. One of the things that's happening is this shortwave that uh, came out of off the coast of California is actually strengthening and cutting off as it lifts up into Colorado and then points northward. The next energy drops down from the northwest, and that drives down into the southwest, does the same thing. It cuts off and strengthens as it lifts up toward the northeast. And meanwhile, there's a low out at east of 60 in the Atlantic, so that puts us in a ridge position in between for early next week. And gradually that low lifts out, the heights come down, but it's not, anything that I would describe as being, cold air. And, look at that. Now, the end of next week, there's some kind of upper low that deepens off the East Coast there in the Gulf of Maine. This is now, I'm sorry, beyond next week. We're going into the first full week of May. Uh, that would argue that if this is the case, that we'll probably turn cooler for at least a few days with this, if you want to believe it. But at least for now, if you're looking for a couple of warm days, you're going to get them Sunday and Monday. So enjoy them. And maybe much of next week will be above normal, but if the GFS is right, it's back to troughing in the east in some fashion for the first, starting around, let's say, May 4th, and then lasting, right through the rest of the period, which goes to May 11th.
I took a look at the Climate Prediction Center, and they've got for the Northeast, at least for our neck of the woods, in their 6 to 10 day outlook, they've got unseasonably warm and dry weather, and the dry weather continues to 8 to 14 days. So, I mean, that doesn't mean that it's going to be dry, absolutely dry for the next 2 weeks. There will be shots, occasional, showers that will occur, but in general, over the next couple of weeks, more often than not, we're looking for dry weather and warm weather too. And I got to tell you, after what we have been through for the past, couple of months with the unseasonably wet conditions, my goodness, we've had so much rain. We could use a nice stretch of rather dry weather, and it looks like we're heading in that direction. I'm sorry to see what's happening in the nation's midsection. They certainly, are going to be going through a lot of problems over the next, 2, 3, 4 days with all of that rain and the threat of severe weather. But at least in our neck of the woods here in the Northeast, we're going to be enjoying, I think, a nice spell of more tranquil conditions, which again, we certainly could use after all that we've been through in recent days and weeks around here.
Yesterday, the National Hurricane Center issued a tropical weather outlook for a system that was way, way, way out, 900 miles northwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. It was a one-off outlook that they sent out because there's nothing there now, so it's not an issue. So if you were thinking maybe we get a super early tropical cyclone, although we did have, it was back in did we had a subtropical cyclone in January?
I vaguely remember something like that. I
Yeah,
vaguely,
I thought we did. Or was it
but
last January?
I
They're
mean,
they're
we're,
starting to they're starting to pile up now.
yeah, we're still waiting for Alberto. Let's put it that way.
All right. Let's wait no longer for Briller Jeopardy on this Thursday night,
I have that
which you have. Yes.
indeed. I'm going to give it to you right in a moment here. Where are we, Scott? Where are you? Scott Briller. Yes, here it is. Hi, Joe. On this edition of Briller Jeopardy, the average annual precipitation, it was still on average annual precipitation for states, which make it, kind of difficult to, envision here. So we have 5 places, 5 states tonight. We'll start off with, actually, this is not the one we're starting off with. This is actually number 2 on Scott's list, but I figured let's use this one first. The Potato State, Idaho, average annual precipitation in the state of Idaho, Joe. All of a sudden, I had this craving for
Hmm. Well, they're on the east side of the Cascades, so they usually it's drier there. So I'll say, yeah, I'm not overly familiar with that part of the country. I'll say 25.
All things considered, since you are not familiar with that part of the country, 25 is not a bad guess. It's a little more than what they receive annually, but it's still a good guess.
Well, Michael Azara said 19.
And
And
Michael is absolutely correct.
oh, very good, Michael. Nice. Um,
Michael wins a free catalog to the Michael C. Fina Company.
right. Oh, okay.
All right, here's second one tonight is Illinois.
Illinois. Illinois. I'll say, hmm, pretty active Ohio Valley. I'll say 40.
Joe, Snake Country for you.
40. All right. Well, Rich Rothmansky said 44.
Nope,
Um,
too
Jason
much.
Fox 37.
Not enough.
Racinopedia 41.
A little bit too much.
Frank R said 40, so I'm thinking 39.
39, Jack Benny. And yeah, that's what Illinois gets on an annual basis, rainfall or precipitation wise. 39. Now we're going to try for a place not too far away from Illinois, Iowa, which is getting battered and has been and will continue to get battered for the next few days.
I will say I'll go a little lower for Iowa. I'll say 36.
Whew, almost a little bit on the high side, but another good guess, Joe.
Chuck Cardillo said 33.
Oh, well, Chuck Cardillo's in Snake Country with that.
Mike Waterhouse said 35.
35, nah, it's a little much, but I will tell you that
Pa-
Vince Trucci,
34.
34, 34 for Iowa, yes.
All right.
And how about some place that's, I was going to say in between the two, but actually it's not because Illinois is further back to the west, but a little more to the east from Illinois is Indiana,
And what did we say Illinois had?
39.
39. Indiana, I'll say, trying to decide if I should go 1 inch higher or 1 inch lower. I'll say 40.
Well, it's close, but we already have winners on the chat board, assuming that they're thinking of Indiana. J. Justin B. and Patrick Darcy. with 42.
42. All right. So I was
And I
right to go a little higher.
and I saved the best for last, Joe. You ready?
All right.
Hawaii.
I knew you were going to go there for some reason. Now this is really almost impossible. Uh,
Exactly.
this is just, I mean, this is impossible.
I mean,
Because
first of all, consider this: Hawaii is not just there. I mean, it's islands. There's like four or five major islands. Oahu is where Honolulu is, and of course, there's the Big Island of Hawaii, which is controlled by two things: the trade winds, and also by the tall volcanic peaks. So you have one side of that island that receives a tremendous amount of rain, and then you got the other side of the island that receives not all that much, if any at all. They're in the rain shadow, so to speak. So how
how you gonna, yeah, and it's not just one island, it's however
yeah,
many islands that are there. I'm just gonna pick a round number and I'm just gonna say 50.
would you say 50?
50.
50. All things considered, 50 is not all that bad, but it's not quite enough.
Well, Northern Grace said 55,
Uh,
and
and that's closer, but it's not quite enough.
Vincent Croce said 57,
Still not close enough, but
and
closer.
Chuck Cardillo and Patrick Darcy say 58.
Still closing in on it, but still not quite
All right.
enough.
Christina Pedia said 62.
Christina Pidia is within arm's reach of the average.
So it's more than 62.
Yes.
All right. Well, nobody's guessed higher than 62. Christina Pedia now says no, no, 67. So now
She
she's
should
too high. Frank Scalera, 62. Patrick Darcy, 64.
64. 64 for Patrick Darcy is correct. And somebody was mentioning Oahu is responsible for 90% of Hawaii's, well, it doesn't, the GDP. I thought he was going to say something to the effect of the precipitation. But if you ever win a free trip, if you win a contest and the prize is a free week or 2 weeks in Hilo, Hawaii, I would give the prize back because Hilo, which is located on the easternmost side of the Big Island and faces into the trade winds, gets a lot of upsloping, and
Right.
they get, I mean, just outside of the city, they get like 200 or 300 inches of rain per year. It rains practically every day in Hilo. So you don't want to really be there for any long length of time. And I said, and you pointed this out too. I mean, how possibly can you come up with an average when you've got places like 200 and 300 inches in one island or one part of one island, and other places have just a fraction of that. So,
And it snows on the Big Island
oh yeah,
at the top of the mountain. We've done it where we've had blizzard warnings up, so there's that. All right, any plans for the weekend?
nothing,
Nothing?
nothing.
Nothing. Well,
I
I'm
have
gonna
a,
do
I have a,
I got some yard work I'm gonna do, but that's really about it.
um,
And
yeah, but admit it. I mean, especially those of us who have, especially a large plot of land and lawn, yard work is, well, I'm
it's
just looking.
work. It's
I'm,
work.
I'm looking at my tractor, and my tractor mower. We've had it now for like over 20 years, and I've spent 99.9% of the time. I'm the one who's driven that tractor mower. 600 and I think 40 hours on that tractor. There's 640 hours I'm never going to get back.
Has Renata had to fix it?
No, no. If we've had any problems, we have this gentleman named Mike who comes in and fixes it. But I'm just looking here. 640 hours. That equates to 26.6 days. So if I got on that tractor and was on it for 26 and a half days constantly, that's how long of all the time I've been on that tractor.
Well, I figured out when I was commuting, on a daily basis to Westchester.
Yeah.
Um, because I was driving 130 miles, uh, not each way, but combined 65 each way. Um, it worked out to the and just not really counting traffic, okay, which a lot of the times I didn't have to deal with it because of the off hours that I traveled. But it came out to I spent 6 weeks of every year in my car on the road driving to and from work. 6 weeks,
Yep,
which sort of put it all in perspective for me that, I'm not doing that anymore, obviously, but I can understand people who want to work from home because, you know, 6 weeks, 52 weeks out of the year, it's like sitting, 6 weeks on the road, driving back and forth. I mean, that's insane.
that's upset. And when I was asked by News 12, because we were in Yonkers and they moved everything to Long Island, Woodbury, Long Island. They said, "Oh, all you do is commute to Woodbury," and that was, I think, 145 miles for me. I pretty much would have been in your situation,
And
and
that's
then
why
that's
you said no.
that's been fine. No, I said yes. Actually, I said, "What am I going to do?" Just like what you did. I did. What can I do? I mean, I got to work, got to make some money or whatever. But then that's when FiOS came along and said, "Would you be interested in that?" Yes, because FiOS was exactly the same distance from my house to Yonkers, where I used to commute. So it's crazy. Craig Allen said to me, he said, you'll go nuts. You have to go over the Throgs Neck Bridge twice. He said you'll throw yourself off the Throgs Neck Bridge.
Oh, no, you would have. I mean, I did it every day. You know,
Yeah.
drive either the Throgs Neck or if there was a problem on the Throgs Neck, took the Whitestone. Either way, um, but oh, thank God, no more. Not to,
Yep.
never again. All
Yep.
right, the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast brought to you by our affiliate Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast. The coupon code is spring 2024. Use it and you get.
10% off.
All right. So we'll be back Sunday night at 7:35 unless there's something comes up at the last minute, but right now I don't foresee anything. So everybody have a great Friday and a great Saturday, and we'll see you Sunday night.
We'll be here. Have a good one, folks.
Good night.